All right, Queens, welcome to another episode. I have a special guest with me today. And today I have with me Alexandra Carter, and she is a certified intuitive eating counselor. And Alexandra helps you to cultivate the best version of yourself with an anti-diet, health at every size approach. So, Alexandra, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Victoria. It's so good to be here.
I'm so excited for this. And as you know, because you're an avid listener, I have 10 quick fire questions for you. So are you ready?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, number one. Okay, number one's always like two in one. Where do you live and what is your favorite thing about where you live?
I live in the northeastern United States in Connecticut. And I love that I get all four seasons. I'm a big seasons person, so I want a little bit of everything.
We are very similar. Like, I love having different seasons because if you live somewhere where it was always warm and hot, I think I'd get a little bit bored of the sun, if I'm being honest.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, number two, your favorite food.
I was thinking about this before because I thought maybe it would be one of the questions.
Yes.
Probably sushi. I'm a big sushi fan.
Nice. Number three, the craziest diet you've ever done.
Oh my
If you can pick
goodness.
one.
I did this for a short amount of time because it was nearly impossible. I did a liquid cleanse situation and it had me doing crazy things with broccoli.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty.
Can you eat broccoli now or is it like traumatized you?
I can eat broccoli, but I wouldn't put it in a blender ever again.
No, yeah, I feel you on that one. Okay, this might be hard to answer because I would find it hard to answer. Number four, what top three books would you recommend for anyone in this space to listen to or to read? Sorry, I always listen to my book, so automatically to read or to listen to.
Yeah, either way. So I always if it's someone that's new to this space, there's a book called Body Kindness by Rebecca Scritchfield. And I think it's a fantastic introduction to the intuitive eating anti-diet world. And then I think the next book that I recommend, I would always say read the book Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. It's a fantastic resource. And then the last one is a book called The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. And it's like my manifesto. I mean, it's just brilliant. And it is really empowering in this journey as well.
Yes, I've read two out of those books. I read number two and number three. Awesome. And I want to ask you, have you read The Fuck It Diet by Caroline Dooner?
You know, I'm actually listening to it as an audiobook right now.
It's so good, isn't it? Like,
so good.
Yeah, I love that one. And also, what else did I want to ask you? Oh, yes. More Than a Body by Lindsay and Lexi Kai. Have you read that one?
Yes. That one is also fantastic. That was like number 5 on my list.
Yeah, so good. So listeners already, like, jot these down, go back, pause it. Mm-hmm. Seriously, these books, if you let them, will change your life.
Yeah.
Not understatement, they will. They can. Okay, so number 5, finish this sentence. When I experience a body image trigger, I
think I sort of have broken it down into a few steps for myself. When I experience a body image trigger, the first thing I'll do is remove myself or remove the trigger, like take a step back, give myself space from it. Because there's no way to sort of approach things with a level head or a grounded center when you're in the middle of it. And then I think my next step is doing that grounding work, giving myself a break, calming my nervous system, whether it's, taking a few deep breaths, going outside, breathing some fresh air, something like that. And then I think the most sort of important step or like the transition in that is figuring out what is actually true, because in those tough body image moments, our entire history is showing up. and it's giving us this stress reaction. So, maybe it's that I put on a pair of pants that don't fit me anymore, and I'm, feeling like that makes me ugly or unworthy or unlovable. But what's actually true? The truth is, the pants don't fit. It doesn't mean all of those things. And grounding myself in what else is possible and what else is true in this situation. And then the last thing that I always like to do in those moments is do what I had planned on doing. So if you try on the pants and you're planning on going to brunch, and now I'm in this moment and I'm upset, put on something comfortable and go to brunch still. Do the thing, live your life, because life is about experiencing everything, not, what am I trying to say? Life is about
brilliant what you're saying.
Oh, thank you. Enjoying the experiences, not watching yourself from the sidelines.
Oh yes, cold shiver. So much yes to that. Thank you for sharing that in so much depth. And I don't know where this was from, this like quote, which I'll probably butcher because I tend to do things like that. But I was reading a book and it was a man's voice, so listening to a book, and he said something like, wisdom is the experience minus the emotion. And that kind of stuck with me because I was like, well, we need emotions as humans. Obviously, that's what we live for. But if you can like zoom out and like what you said, like what's really true, I feel fat, I feel unworthy, I feel shame, but actually that's not my truth. That's just old stories. So the fact is my jeans don't fit, done. It's the emotions like we take with us from childhood. So that resonated when you shared that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that perspective on it, that wisdom comes from taking out the feelings, because it's so true. And our feelings, there's something I read, I think it's actually from that book Body Kindness that I mentioned, that says, our thoughts are stories that we tell ourselves to make sense of our emotions and our feelings, but stories aren't always true. They can be made up. And so getting to the root of what is the absolute fact here, and what am I telling myself because of the experiences I've had?
Yeah. Wow. So powerful already. We've not even got through the questions. This is going to be so exciting. Okay. Next one's dead easy. Dogs or cats?
It's not easy.
Oh, is it not? Okay. You can say both, I guess. Anything's possible, right? We don't have to have an or, we can have an and.
All right. Thank you. I identify as an animal person. I have cats right now because my husband and I were living in New York City, and I just can't have a dog in a city. I feel like that's not fair to them. So we have 2 cats right now, but in the near future, I plan on getting a dog.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm also an animal person. Like the only animal I dislike in the whole world is mosquitoes. Like,
Agreed.
why? What they, in fact, totally off topic. Do you know what part a mosquito plays in life?
I truly don't. I couldn't, other than annoying and miserable.
Like, I think most of mosquitoes' life plan is to bite me, and I'm allergic to the whatever they do, the sticky whatever they do, and then I come out in like a weird itchy rash, and it's I'm not a fan of mosquitoes, but anything else can exist. That's fine by me.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Okay, number 7, weights or cardio?
Oh gosh, I sound so indecisive. I think a little bit of both. I definitely let my preferences lead me when it comes to movement. And so sometimes I go through like a weights only phase, and then sometimes I'll go through a phase where I'm not into weights and I'll switch to cardio. So a little bit of both, but I think, I have a background in theater, and so dance, which tends to lean towards cardio, is something that always makes me so happy. So maybe cardio.
Yay. I can't wait to get into your story around your past as well, by the way. Okay, number 8. What 3 things would you take to a desert island?
My husband, um, a coffee pot. I really love coffee.
I hate coffee. I'm so sorry. I hate coffee.
It's okay. Everybody has their own preference and it's all right.
We can be friends, even
Yes,
though I don't like coffee. That's okay. It's good.
absolutely. And then probably if I'm being more impractical, like my e-reader so that I could always have a book to read.
Nice three things. Good job. All right, number 9. What is the most powerful mantra or affirmation you have used or you maybe still use?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about this because I loved this question when I've heard you ask it to people before. And I think that two sort of popped up. And the first is something that really helped me on my own journey into this, world of anti-diet and intuitive eating. And I'm not sure it's the most like catchy mantra, but I said it to myself all the time. And it was that their journey is their own and my journey is my own, because so much of what I struggled with was comparison and a lack of self-trust. And so I think like empowering myself with that self-trust and that sort of affirmation that it's okay if my journey is different from the people around me was really, really powerful. And I think that that kind of was what guided me, especially in the beginning of my journey. And then the other one that stuck out to me as I was thinking about this is self-control is not self-care.
Mm. Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
so often we think we're caring for ourselves by controlling everything. But the truth is, self-control is just controlling yourself and is just putting rigid rules, and it's not leaning into, like we were talking about before, the experience and the pleasure and the satisfaction in life.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's like an illusion of safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we go on diets, we feel awesome well, not now, but I used to feel
Right.
awesome at the beginning because you feel like you're getting something right and you're controlling the outcome of your body and your food, which ultimately we think we're going to get more love, right, at the root of it all. But it's just a false sense of security, because ultimately, I love that you said that self-care over self-control always.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. So I would love to dive into your story a little bit, Alexandra. And how did you end up being of service to the women that you serve today?
Yeah. So, I guess starting from the beginning, I spent years as a disordered eater. I think a lot of us can relate to that. I was at odds with my body. I really felt miserable, but I didn't even question it. It was just a part of my life story. I think that stems from being a perfectionist and a people pleaser and an overachiever. So it started, I think, when I was really young as something to do, something like good. I'm using air quotes because I know people won't be able to see me. But it was like a project that I could ace or a problem that I could fix. And so sort of my body became that project. And then as I got a little older and you know found my passion for theater, because I'm an actor as well, I really, it became a part of my identity in that way as well. Like if I had the perfect body or the perfect, appearance, then I would be a better actor. Or I had to look a certain way to be palatable for casting directors or, shows that I wanted to be in, parts that I wanted to play. And so that just became a part of what I thought was a healthy mindset. And I didn't even know there was a different way of being. I just thought that I needed to constantly be working on fixing myself. And I think that just took so much brain space away from me and away from like all of the things that make me me. Like I was just consumed with those toxic sort of thoughts and obsession with policing and controlling myself, or bullying myself for not controlling myself.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, as I was thinking back about this, it also became a really interesting dynamic because in acting and in theater, I think I got to feel really confident as other people. I got to feel in my body when I was playing another character. And that was some of what that gave me is I got to temporarily shut off my like mean mind and turn on this character that wasn't myself, that got to feel good and confident regardless, without, because I haven't ever been in a play or a show or a, film where the topic is changing my body. It's the characters are generally like not focusing on working out and dieting.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I think that it kind of gave me a little safe zone when I got to be on stage or in the show. But it kind of everything kind of hit the fan for me when I came home from my honeymoon with my husband. We had been all over Europe and had this amazing time and really kind of explored and tried new things. And it was just wonderful. And I came home and all I could think about was fixing my body, getting back to, because I felt like I had let myself go over the honeymoon. All of those feelings came rushing back. And I was like, wait a second, this is not good. Like, I just spent 3 weeks with my best friend in a dream situation, and now I'm only consumed with thoughts that are like bullying and self-deprecating, and it just felt terrible. And so I knew I needed something different, and I knew there had to be something out there, but I really didn't know. I'd never heard of intuitive eating. I'd never sort of crossed paths with this anti-diet space, but I knew I couldn't force myself back on another diet and go through this cycle all over again. So I sort of toyed around with all of this for a while, but it wasn't until the pandemic hit actually that I really got like a chance to change my life. And because when the pandemic hit, theater completely shut down. So I had to stop my job. My job ended, like I had to come home, we quarantined. There was nothing going on. And I was like, okay, without this character that I've been playing, without these roles I've been doing, without my, work goals, I'm left with just myself and my body. And I was scared. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. How can I live the rest of my life like this? And so I took that leap of faith and I got amazingly lucky. I hired a coach who was a coach just by happenstance in the anti-diet space. I didn't even search that out on purpose. It just was, like we were talking about, her vibe felt really in tune with me, and she felt so trustworthy and inspiring. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this. And I remember sitting down with my husband and saying, things can't get any worse, but if they could just be a little bit better, it would be worth it. And like things got insanely better. It was like a total 180. Investing in myself like gave me the opportunity to grow like I've never grown before. And it was like that boost of self-trust that I hadn't had. And once I was introduced to intuitive eating and the anti-diet space, it was like the missing puzzle piece that I'd never had. Like it just clicked and I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I believe in. This is the stuff. And so I like dived in completely, like no, what is the phrase? No,
you just jumped in with both feet, like
yes,
went for it.
Yes, exactly. And so I, really did the hard work. I challenged myself. I kind of, overhauled my entire life, and was so amazed at the opportunity that laid on the other side, the freedom, the peace, the balance, but even more so like the space to be myself and to truly live into the passions that I had on a whole nother level than was ever accessible to me before. And then I was like, I have to share this with other people. Like everyone deserves to feel this way. So I, dived into getting certifications so that, I felt like I had a solid ground underneath me. Becoming an intuitive eating counselor, becoming a health and wellness coach, and starting my own business. And yeah, now here I am. And I just love being able to connect with people and give them the opportunity to flourish in the way that I did through this anti-diet, intuitive eating, health world.
Oh, what a story. I would love, I've got so many questions and I'm trying to remember them as you was talking. So can we rewind to your are you still doing theatre, by the way, just out of interest?
Yeah. I think I get to have like the best of both worlds now, which is that I feel like I'm standing at this path with all the doors open in front of me. And, both of my careers as a coach and as an actor can kind of go with me anywhere. So yeah, I get a little bit of both, which is wonderful.
That's awesome. And my question around like your acting back then when you were struggling with disordered eating,
Mm-hmm.
did you find that you did get judged on your body size, or was that just what you decided would happen, so you're protecting yourself in case, or did it actually happen in your world?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough question to answer. I think a little bit of both. I live with a lot of privilege. I live with a lot of body privilege. I am a straight size person, which for people that don't know, that means I can find my size in the store.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the judgment was self-induced in that, like, I was putting these parameters on and holding myself back. But in the world of theater and film and entertainment, there is so much bias and anti-fatness and judgment and body policing. There's so many stories about weight loss being a part of a casting process, and so there is so much toxicity that some of it may have been self-induced, but I think that the atmosphere also fuels that, if that makes sense. So I think that, yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both. But definitely comes from a place of, there is a lack. I mean, in the entertainment industry as a whole, there's a lack of body diversity and of representation. And so I think, like, when you don't see what you look like represented in the media, then it's hard to imagine yourself in a real body being a part of it.
Yeah, I can resonate with that in regards to seeing yourself in others. Like, one of the biggest things that helped me on my journey was looking at women my size or bigger on Instagram and being okay with that. And that was very confronting. But then I found peace in the fact that, oh, wait a minute, she's got a similar body type to me, but she's not hiding her cellulite and she's not staying small. She's living her life. I mean, yes, Instagram, you never know 100% because it can all be lies, but in general, like, it helped me to see women living their best life, or at least showing that they were living their best life in the body that I had or larger. That really helped me. Did you do something similar on your journey?
Yes, absolutely. I think that, and with all my clients, which I'm sure you do as well, I always encourage, like, diversifying your feed, diversifying your social media, not just, different bodies, but different people from different experiences, different races, because we get such a small view of the world from, our social media feeds that are curated by, like, the people we know, or the people we admire. And so being able to explore and see other people and see different experiences just really gives you a sense of belonging, because we're all unique and we all have different experiences and bodies and personalities. And so everyone belongs in a space where everyone is different.
Yes, I love that. Nature celebrates diversity. Like, you don't look at I'm looking at a plant now. It's actually, funnily enough, a mosquito keeping away plant. Literally, I have one in my office and next to my bed. Like, I'm a bit OCD with mosquitoes coming near me, but that plant doesn't look at the tree outside and worry about it doesn't look the same and you're bigger than me or whatever. It just bees the plant.
Yeah,
A lot
I
from
love
nature.
that. It's so true. Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful, because you're right. It's diversity is natural and normal and beautiful and real. And that's just not something we talk about or are taught.
Yeah. And before I go into the other questions, I want to touch on the point where you decided to invest in yourself, because my audience, your audience, we're sharing between each other now. And especially for myself and my personal journey, it was a big deal for me to invest in myself because I hadn't done it before. And also I tried everything and it didn't work. So first of all, like, how did you get to the point where, I know you said you had a conversation with your husband, because coaching isn't cheap and it shouldn't be, because the investment alone encourages you to grow and say yes to change. But how did you navigate that in your own life? And then how do you help clients to navigate it when you know that you can help them, but the investment's kind of blocking them because they don't believe in themselves yet?
Yeah, it's scary, and it was scary, and I understand, I have a coach now. I believe in it so much, and it's still scary when I invest in a new coach or a new, level of my coaching. And so I think, like, first of all, just affirming that it's a big deal. Like you said, it is a huge deal for each of us for our own individual reasons. And I think that, I mean, not to echo exactly what you said, but exactly what you said, often it is a high price point, but you are getting, it's almost impossible to put into words if the coach is someone that you feel connected to, because I think that's really important too. And that's why, like, I think every coach that's out there, I want to rewind my own words.
I didn't see any problem with what you were saying, so
Okay.
I'm on the edge of my seat, ready for what you're going to say.
I was going to say, I think every coach that's out there has a place. And I do. I was then going to say, except for the ones that are telling you to change yourself and your body.
Totally agree. I also believe, like, at the beginning of my coaching career, I was very kind of angry at the anti-diet space, but honestly, I'm not happy about it. But most people genuinely think they're helping people. Like, they're not aware. So I just wanted to add that, like, but it's took me a while to see the compassion. Actually, not everyone in the diet space is trying to fuck with our minds and our bodies.
Right.
They think they're helping, but yeah, sorry.
Yes. No, that's fine. But yeah, so I think that every coach offers something different, not just in, like, program or, content that they're sharing, but in, like, personality. Just as with a therapist, like, sometimes it takes time and you have to interview and find the person that works with you. I think that's really important too. So once you find that person that you connect with, that inspires you, that excites you, that makes you feel seen and heard, yes, the investment is big and it's scary and it's a lot of money, but the other side of it is indescribable. You will get so much out of it because of the relationship that you cultivate, but also because you are investing in yourself and you are worth that investment. And doing that action, investing in yourself, actually, like, taking the step to do it, is life-changing in itself, because it shows you that you're worthy. It shows you that you care about yourself. It shows you that you appreciate yourself and are ready to take it to the next level, for lack of a better phrase. And so I think that there are lots of ways to do it. And so also, like, everyone's journey is their own. Everyone is in a different place. And so I think, like, when I'm talking with people that are potential clients, or the clients that I have now, when we were talking about the investment, there are ways to do it. I think that, personally, I offer different payment plans. So sometimes that works for people. If it's something that they need some time to think about, or start at a lower price point and move up to the higher. I mean, I think that I can only speak for my own experience and my own sort of way that I run things, but I believe in this so much. And I really am so passionate about helping people that obviously I'm not going to devalue myself to help someone else, but I will work with you. If it's something that is important to you, like, we're going to make it happen for you, whether it's tomorrow or, you know, in a few weeks. You know, I've had people start like crowdsourcing to do this because it is important and it is valuable and it's worth making it work, because again, like, the other side of it, the life change you're going to experience is invaluable.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, I remember paying, when I hired a coach, I literally was blessed I had a credit card, but just had to stick it on my credit card because I literally didn't have the money. And it was thousands of dollars because she was American. And just investing alone, my energy shift was like, right, I'm 101% committed to this process. Tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. And the transformation I got, I would have paid 10 times. And I'm not just saying that because I couldn't see it at the beginning, and it might be the same for you as well, because I can tell from the wording you're using, like, you and I are very similar with like the passion we have for our clients and what we do. The liberation and the freedom and the life you get back from giving up diets and binge eating and body hate, like, it's literally priceless. I would have paid 10 times that. And when clients start working with me and the investment's a bit sticky, but they do it anyway, like down the line, a few weeks down the line, they're like, oh my God, this is like worth it, way more worth it. Like, I just felt like I needed to bring this into the conversation, because I think a lot of women listening to you and I might be in a place where they really want to seek help and support, but the investment's like a big deal. So I just wanted us to each share our experience, and if it helps any one of them reach out to you or I or anyone else they resonate with to get the help that they need, then our job here is done, because we're changing the world one woman at a time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that it is scary and it is a big deal, but just like you said, doing it is worth every penny and more. Yes, exactly.
Part of the process. Awesome. So let's get into it then, Alexandra. If someone is listening to this and they probably have heard of intuitive eating before, but maybe they're not entirely sure like what exactly it is, how would you describe it to someone who's new to intuitive eating? Like, what is intuitive eating basically?
Yeah. So I always like to start with like the baseline definition that Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch gave, who are the creators and founders of intuitive eating, the writers of the book. And they, say it's a self-care, research-backed eating framework. And I think that that's important because of the focus on self-care, because I think that is such an integral part of intuitive eating. And then I like to sort of go on to explain that it's an inward out transformation. So you start working on the internal stuff, getting to know yourself and reestablishing this connection with your body, your preferences, your internal signals, and then addressing how that relates to food, to, movement, to your body as a vessel, and all of those things. I think that the major difference between what we're used to understanding as health or healthy eating, I'm using air quotes again, is
it's needed with the word health, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. What we're used to is regiments and control and bad and good, or right and wrong. And intuitive eating sort of flips that on its head and says, there's no bad or good. Nothing is right or wrong. The only thing you have to worry about is honoring yourself, listening to your internal cues, and moving forward from there. And, I say that it's easy to say, and it's hard to learn, and it's hard to do, but it's like you do the hard work first, and then the rest of your life is spent like just enjoying the work that you did.
Yeah, it's like diet. It's the opposite of diets, isn't it? Like when you start a diet, it's pretty easy and it gets harder and harder. Recovery, and when I say recovery, I mean like recovery from diet trauma, from binge eating, like stepping into food freedom, if you like. That's really difficult at the beginning, as well as exciting, because you're stepping into a whole new world, but it gets a lot easier and easier and easier. And then, like you say, you have your whole life that has nothing to do with diets and what your body looks like. And I couldn't even imagine a world where that was real before I started my journey. And now I can't imagine ever going back to lying in bed thinking, how many calories have I had? Like, going through my head what I've eaten, is that like, and look at waking up and the first thing I do is look at how bloated my tummy, like, oh my God, like, I'm busy running my own business and helping women change their lives. Like, I ain't got time for that shit anymore.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. I mean, it's just a world where that is just not on the radar anymore. And because you feel so comfortable and confident and settled in self-trust and in your body and in your own intuitive voice, that you don't have to worry about that. I think about it like, dieting and diet culture and society teach us that we have to outsource our health and wellness. But the truth is, like, we have all that wisdom within us. It's just about tapping into it and reconnecting with it.
How does one do that? Like, how does someone go from ignoring their body, like ignoring their hunger because they're on a diet plan, and then also, binge eating, I believe, is a way of eating in reaction to any form of restriction. But even so, like, eating past fullness, your body's signaling to you, hey girl, like, I'm full now, you can stop. But then we ignore that as well when we're in the diet binge cycle. So how can we start to connect back to our bodies and understand what is right for us in the moment?
Yeah, I think that I have like two thoughts that I had as you were asking that. And the first, I think, is, giving yourself some compassion, because all of these things, whether it's dieting, whether it's binge eating, whether it's, whatever you're just doing because you've been coping, right? It's a coping mechanism, and good for you because you've been coping, and that is a big win. That's a really, important part of life. It might not be the best way to cope. It might not be the way you want to continue to cope, but it got you here. And so thank goodness you were able to cope in whatever way you had. So I think giving yourself some compassion for the past practices that you have, or the practices maybe some of the listeners have now that they're hoping to change. And then recognizing that there are ways. Like, I think one of the coolest parts of this is when someone feels like they have no connection to their body, no connection to their signals. I'll say, when you feel the urge to pee, do you use the bathroom? And, generally the answer is yeah, usually. Or when you feel thirsty, do you get yourself a glass of water? Generally the answer is yes again. Or when you are tired, do you go to bed? Sometimes I push it, but yes, I go to bed eventually. And so I think, like, then that tells me that you do have a connection to your body signals. They are there. You just are listening to some and not hearing the others, and that's okay. But, like, have confidence and feel empowered that they're there and you have them. It just takes time. And I think it's a process of, like, kind of pulling away the layers of, like, noise that have been going on for so long, and really centering back and, like, becoming aware, judgment or curiosity over judgment aside, lean into curiosity, and then just patience and time. The other thing, I was going to say something that I sort of forgot. Well, if it's important, it'll come back to me.
I had that the other day and it was so good. And I was like, oh no, it's literally disappeared from my brain, but it did come back. So at any point, just drop it in there if it comes back to you. Perfect. I love what you've shared. And my next question, Alexandra, is, would you recommend, like, a newbie intuitive eater do something different than an intuitive eater who is more advanced, but then still needs a bit of guidance on how to tune into their bodies? Because some people worry about health, and I'm sure we're going to go into that. Like, I used to think food freedom just meant eating chocolate forever and that was it. But if you listen to your body doesn't actually want that. So is there a difference between someone at the start of their journey who may be wanting to eat more of the banned foods from dieting compared to someone who is like a few years or 6 months or so into their journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a big difference in that I think everyone is different. So I often find that I start at different places with everyone that I work with, whether they're new to this world or established or, wherever they are, because I think that so much of it is individual and is based on where each of us are at in our lives. And so everyone's different and things are, in different places. I think, like, I often say that there's so many ways into this work. And sometimes it's starting with, the food freedom aspect or wanting to be healthier, or sometimes it's about movement for people and how they engage with their body in that way. Or sometimes it's about the body image healing and wanting to feel comfortable in your own skin. And so I think that depending on where someone sees themselves is where I'll sort of recommend their way in to the intuitive eating world. Although, as I'm saying that, I do want to put like a little bit of a caveat, because if someone is a true like newbie, don't know anything about it, really like ready to like open the doors and see what's inside, I do often start with the principle of intuitive eating, that is reject the diet mentality, because I think it's really important because we don't really know what diet culture is. It's this idea, and it's obviously like a part of the vernacular, really well known to us that are in the world of intuitive eating and anti-diet. But I think, like myself, before I discovered any of this, I would have no idea what someone meant when they said diet culture.
Yeah.
And so I think, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, no, because it's just, there was no other world. It was just, like you said, when you shared your story, you didn't know any different. It was just this is the world. So yeah, I totally get that. I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah. So I think that helping people sort of reacclimate to, there is this diet culture part of our society that, equates health and, the ideal body, or health and weight, that is sort of a fallacy that we've created as human beings that are imperfect. But then there's also reality, which shows us all of these other possibilities, like intuitive eating, like health at every size, like, being able to honor yourself and honor body diversity and still be authentically healthy. And giving them that separation, I think, is a really important sort of baseline, so that they can move into this work with a world to live in. Because when you remove yourself from diet culture, it can feel really isolating and tumultuous, I guess.
That's a big word. What does that mean? That would impress me. I don't know what that means.
Wow, I gotta get it. I don't know. It just means like bumpy, or like like I'm doing a terrible job.
Ups and downs, and
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like going through a storm.
Yes, absolutely. And how would someone like check in with their body then? So you mentioned a lot about honoring your body, and I'm fully on board with everything you're saying as well. But how does someone do that? So I love you brought in, if you need to pee, or if you're cold, you get a jacket, or if you're tired, you go to sleep. That seems very natural for us to listen to our body's cues. Like, how do we know what hunger feels like? How do we know whether we eat a chocolate bar or a tin of soup? Like, how do we navigate all of that within ourselves when we're new to it all?
Yes, thank you. This is such a good question. And it definitely reminded me of what I forgot earlier. So this is awesome. But I think, I think it takes a lot. I guess going back to something we talked about earlier, like mantra that I like to use a lot, that I think is really important, is trial and learning instead of trial and error. And so I think a part of learning your own signals and hearing them, if it feels like the first time, or if it feels like something you've been disconnected to, is you can't do the wrong thing. So just try, maybe, you use the example soup or chocolate, try the soup. if it wasn't satisfying, the best thing you can do is just, like I said before, be curious. Why wasn't that satisfying? What am I actually looking for? And then try the next, just as you can't go wrong if you're learning from your experiences. So I think, like, the way to reconnect to our body signals is awareness. How do we find that awareness is just trying and learning. In intuitive eating, they encourage us to become like anthropologists or scientists that are observing without judgment, taking notes, understanding what's going on, but not, when a scientist does an experiment, they don't say, oh, I don't like how this turned out. They just observe, okay, so when I mixed this with this, it turned into this. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It just is information to help them in the future. And so I think, like, approaching it in that way, that your hunger signals will be there. You just have to learn to hear them or to speak their language. And that's what I was going to say earlier, which is a great, an analogy that I like to use with clients that often I think really lands, is that, like, the hunger, the signals in your body that you're disconnected from are still there. You're just speaking different languages. And when you're speaking different languages, like, the first instinct is for everybody to yell at each other or like talk really slowly and loudly.
I live in the Netherlands and I don't speak the language fluently, so I totally get that.
Yes. And so it can feel really like this is never going to happen. It's very frustrating. It's like, butting heads. But then eventually you find, if you keep trying, you find like one or two words that like open the door to understanding, or someone points at their shoulder and now they're talking about their shoulder. And so it's like that, you start off speaking a different language and it can be really frustrating and feel really like, how will I ever know what my body is trying to tell me? But then if you keep trying and keep asking questions and being curious and gathering that information, eventually you're going to say, oh, I think that was, my body telling me this. And then over time, you'll develop this language of your own that neither of you spoke before, but now you're both speaking together.
Oh, I love that so much. Such a great way to explain it. And I totally resonate as well in regards to, like, what the hell does hunger even feel like? Because I used to think that hunger was only when your belly was literally like rumbling. But for me personally, that's when I'm too far gone. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to keep myself safe, because of all the past eating disorders I've had, what really helped me at the beginning of my journey was eating regularly. Even if, like, say, I'm not really a breakfast person, but I still offer myself the chance to eat breakfast. And if I'm not hungry, I still will eat something small, because most of the time I didn't realize I was hungry until I'm eating. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was this hungry. Like, I need this food. So do you think that's a helpful thing to do for yourself and your clients? Or do you think only wait until you like feel hunger, whatever that means to you?
No, I think you're spot on. I think that oftentimes, especially in the beginning, but even through, like, now I still do that as well. Like, I think that eating for self-care is also an important way, because the other thing that that's doing for you is, for so long, our bodies, or people, listeners that are struggling with this, our bodies didn't trust that they would get the nourishment, the food, the satisfaction that they needed. And so now when you offer yourself, I love how you put that, offering yourself breakfast, even if you're not quote unquote hungry for it at the moment, gives you the opportunity to eat if you need it, but also reinforces that your body can trust that it will be fed, that it will be nourished, that it will get what it needs, and it won't be deprived. And so I think that that is super important. And I love that you brought that up, because, oftentimes intuitive eating is mistaken for like a hunger fullness diet. But the truth is, it's so much more than that. Yes, reconnect to your hunger signals, listen to them, reconnect to those fullness signals and hear them when you can, but also eat when it is something that you want, not because of hunger. Eat when it's a fun party and it feels social. Eat when you need a little bit of extra comfort, or eat when I don't know, when you know you're going on a big hike and you're not hungry, but you should definitely fuel your body a little bit.
Yeah.
There's so many reasons to eat besides hunger and fullness.
Yes, because what I say in my programs is like, some people say eat for fuel and that's it. But that's like saying only have sex when you want to make a baby. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like, we are emotional creatures as humans. We all eat emotionally, and that is okay. When we demoralize that and make that not okay, then we wonder why we're like face planting tubs of Ben and Jerry's and then feeling shame around it, you know? So
Yes.
I love what you said. And I was going to say something that's also disappeared from my mind. Oh, that was it. It ties in with what you said to do with the keyword like self-care. And I love that you brought the analogy up about before you was going on a hike, for example, because if you imagine you're taking care of a baby or a puppy, if you're not like a baby person, you would make sure like the child or the dog like had, even if the child was like, yeah, I'm not hungry, but you know the child's not eaten since like more the breakfast and it's now like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you're going to offer them a meal because you care about them. So if we can parent ourselves and take care of ourselves from that place of, I care about you, I love you, I'm going to offer you nourishment because it's going to be good for you, other than you have to eat a meal because it's meals. It's like depends on the energy you're going in with it, doesn't it? Always.
Yes, absolutely. I love that because, offering yourself the same nurturing and care that you offer others is so important. And so let it be with food, let it be with anything, but saying like, like you said, I love you and I care for you. I'm going to offer you these things, even if it doesn't feel like you're hungry, even if it doesn't feel like you need this, is so important.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask a big question now, because you must have been asked this question multiple times, because I get asked it all the time. Can someone lose weight through intuitive eating?
That is a big question, and
Yeah.
it's a tricky one. I think that, I don't want to like evade answering it, but a little bit because I think
I
it's
understand.
important. And I think the main thing is that intuitive eating is not about weight. And so, like I said before, it is a self-care eating framework that heals your relationship with food and your body. And so, what your body looks like, the size of your body, the appearance of your body when you become an intuitive eater is irrelevant. It's not about the look of your body. It's about your authentic health, which is when you are nourished emotionally, mentally, physically, nutritionally, socially, all of the things coming together. And
Mm.
so, some people, when they become intuitive eaters, some people lose weight, some people gain weight, some people stay the same. There is no normal, there's no average. It's everybody's journey is their own. And so the important thing is that your body reaches a place where it feels safe and secure and nourished and taken care of and happy. And so wherever your body lands, that's where it's meant to be. And that's the
Mm.
important part. And, I guess also I want to add to that, that if weight loss is a goal that, someone listening might have, or, any of us have had, I have so much compassion for you. It is understandable that that's the goal. And I get it. But if you want to be an intuitive eater, I think the key is just put that on the back burner for now. Just set it aside and focus on establishing this connection and having the goal be that authentic whole person health for now. And then, touch back with that at some other point. But for now, set that aside. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's,
It's not bad to have that want, because oh my goodness, look at
yes.
the world we live in.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
say
exactly.
I say to some of my clients, depending on whether they need to hear it or not, is give me 6 months, commit to this process 100%. And if after 6 months, know that you can go and run back to dieting because you've done that for XYZ number of years anyway. You know that's always going to be there for you, in quotes,
Yeah.
there for you. And Obviously, as you know, as we was trying to describe what is actually on the other side of this process, ain't no one going back to dieting after 6 months of this work, because they understand how liberating, free, and also natural it is. Like, quote, normal eaters like my sister, ironically, we've had the same upbringing, like so super focused on body image and diet. She kind of missed all of that, and she's had a very normal relationship with food. Like, she eats a piece of birthday cake at a birthday if she's not hungry because she wants a piece of cake. She'll say no to ice cream because she's still full from dinner. And that's like where I'm at now. And it's just such a nice, relaxing place to be. Like I share with my clients as well, I don't care what you eat or what you don't eat. I care about how you feel about what you eat or what you don't eat. So yeah, I love this conversation. I want to ask before we continue, are you okay for time? Because I want to get through the rest of the questions, but I'm also mindful of time. Are you okay for another maximum 30 minutes, Alexandra?
Yes, I am. Thank you for asking.
Okay, no problem. I want to read a quote off your website, and then I would love you to speak to that, because I think it's so powerful and so key. You said on your website, quote, "You cannot fail with intuitive eating. I can help you welcome a lifestyle where failure is no longer part of the picture. You are so welcome here." So can you speak to that, like the failure part? You touched on it briefly, and I'd love you to dive into that a little bit more, because I see it time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think often diets tell us that we are failures, right? Like it's our fault that we haven't lost the weight or stuck to the plan or done enough of the workouts. Like we've failed for not looking the right way or having the right body or living the right way or eating the right food or all of those things. But that is just not true. Diets have failed us. If dieting worked, and this is something that people say all the time in this space, but if dieting worked, there would be one diet and we would all be doing it, but there aren't.
And then we'd never have to keep going back to said diet again and again and again.
Yes, exactly. But there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, I couldn't even count. Yeah. And so I think, recognizing that you are not a failure. None of us are failures. It's this it's dieting that's failed us. It's diet culture that has, sold us short. And we are so much more than that. And I think that's one of the most valuable parts of intuitive eating is it recognizes our individuality, our uniqueness, our brilliance and strength, and our resiliency to keep going in the face of all of this adversity, which is dieting. And so I think that that's what I mean when I say that you can't fail, because there is no failure, even in, the framework, which are the principles of intuitive eating. They're not rules. They're just, sort of guideposts. But even within that, the idea is you can't fail because you're always learning. And it goes back to that idea of trial and learning, not trial and error. Yes, there are times when intuitive eating is a struggle. Yes, there are obstacles that you face. There are bumps in the road. There are, steps back as much as there are steps forward, but it's never a failure because you're always on the journey. It's always, it's about the process, not the product. So I think that knowing that you can't fail because you're not a problem is such an important part. And then the last part of that, you are so welcome here, is sort of my own addition to the idea, because I think that our society, diet culture, and the beauty standards have left so many people out. And I think I want to share that this space is inclusive. This is a space for everyone in any body, of any walk of life, anything like that, that the only standard of beauty that this space has is that you are honoring yourself and living your truth. And that is it. That's the bottom line. Everyone is celebrated and welcome in the space that I create. And I think also in sort of this anti-diet intuitive eating space. Yeah.
Diversity is welcomed and actually encouraged 100%, which is the opposite to diet culture, because interestingly enough, I think the statistic was 5% of people in the world naturally have the body that 95% of us strive to get to and never do, because our body's not supposed to look like that. So I love that you're celebrating diversity, and also the failure part is huge, because at the beginning, and I'm sure your clients are the same as mine, and obviously myself and your experience as well, we come into this work with a very diet related kind of brain. So it's good or bad, like you've got it or you haven't. It's like a tick and cross exercise. Like we want like a line that past this line is okay, and then the other side of the line is not okay. But when we like welcome intuitive eating, we take away any lines or good or bad or tick boxes, and that can be like, oh my god, well, what the hell do I do, because there's nothing to like get right. But that's the point, and that can actually cause a lot of anxiety. But when we work through the anxiety and start to practice relaxation, and like nothing can go wrong, there is no wrong, that's when you can really start to tune in and be like, okay, I can't get this wrong, so what do I actually want? The power of allowance and freedom is very liberating and also helpful, because then you can choose health, quote health, and I like general nourishment is probably a better word to use, without being in diet mentality, purely because you want to nourish your physical body. And then sometimes you will choose chocolate and ice cream because you want to nourish yourself emotionally, and that's 100% okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the idea, I really appreciate that you brought up that the switch from thinking sort of that black or white, right or wrong, can be really stressful. But I think it's a process of learning to trust yourself again, because it's like we were talking about before, when you're so used to, living by rules or ticking those boxes, you stop trusting yourself and look outside of yourself for what is right or wrong. But when we say there's no failure, there's no right or wrong, it just means that you get to look within yourself, ask yourself, what is right for me right now? What is the best choice for me in this moment? And then that's what you get to honor. And that just leads to a whole new world of trusting yourself and honoring your preferences and, all of that magic.
Yeah, and it goes into all the areas of your life as well, doesn't it? It doesn't just stay with food and body. Like I'm sure you notice it in your business as well, and I do with myself, like self-trust and the confidence to just go with what feels right, regardless of whether it intellectually makes sense on a piece of paper. Like whatever feels right for me, I follow, and it's served me very well so far. And I'm sure you have the same.
Yes. Yeah, in all aspects of life. And even in like my acting and stuff, just, referencing back to before, I mean, it's a different world now, post, now that we're sort of into the pandemic, past the pandemic-ish, it's still going on.
Yeah, I hope, fingers crossed for a normal world at some point.
Yes, exactly. But, all auditions have gone online. So it's all taking videos of yourself and sending them in. And I think, I've noticed before, whenever I have had to do a self-tape like that, I would spend out. I mean, I could never get the right take, not about my acting or my voice or anything like that, but just like, oh, I don't like how I look. Oh, it has to be this angle. Now I just go in and I do it. If I did it okay, if I sounded okay, like fine, just send it, because it's not about that. There's so much more available to me, and now that I'm grounded in trusting myself and appreciating myself for all that I am, not judging for all that I'm not.
Wow, so powerful. And I love that, because I want to move on to like body image and self-love now. So how can someone start seeing their body as like a friend or a teammate? So whether you perceive that question as internally or externally or both, like, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think, I like to sort of place it in terms of a relationship, because our longest term relationship is with ourselves and our body. And so, when we have a loving relationship outside of ourselves, it's very rare, or, real, not real, I don't know, that we have like a love at first sight situation. And even if it is love at first sight, I think like that is an initial thing, and then it takes work in moving forward as it grows and develops into a true long-term relationship. And so I think, understanding that we don't go from feeling uncomfortable, disliking, maybe even, having a very against each other relationship with ourselves and our bodies, to loving ourselves. You can't flip a switch, that doesn't exist. And so instead, looking at self-love as a practice or something that you can cultivate, like any loving relationship. It starts with connection and respect and trust and loyalty and maybe some fun and all of those things, and building on those until it turns into love, but not necessarily love in like a looking at my body saying I love my body way, but love in the way that you choose to act with love towards yourself, towards your body, like a teammate. Like you were saying before, when we're on a team, we do things to support each other, to work together, to work harmoniously. It doesn't mean you have to love everything about your teammates, but everything is in tandem, is to create the most successful situation for the team. So working together instead of working against, and knowing that you don't have to feel in love with yourself at all times. And if you did, I would be like, what are you taking? I need some of that.
I totally agree. Like, you can love something or someone without liking them all the time. Like, this is why I really loved the book More Than a Body. It took a lot. I had it sat in my Audible for months before I pressed play, because I kind of knew I didn't want to face what was going to be said. And to fully come to the realization that we are more than our bodies, and we are not here just to have our bodies look a certain way, to let that go and to mourn the loss of that actually was a big deal for me. When I read that or listened to that and then really implemented it, because it's all right listening and reading, you've got to implement this stuff and embody it. That's what true freedom was. When it's all well and good, as you've shared, if you look in the mirror and you're like, I look hot today, which sometimes I do, and sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, well, get my body image toolkit out then, because this is not good today. Like that, we have these days, but knowing that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if I think I look hot. It doesn't, because we're more than that. And when more and more women that are sharing this message will change the world, because there's more to us than our bodies. And I think that is so key what you said. It's not just about looking, you're loving the way you look physically. That can happen, and it does happen, but it's not about that, is it? It's deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that having a loving relationship with yourself is appreciating who you are, not what you look like, and committing to treating yourself with respect and compassion through both, right? When you love and appreciate yourself, and when you feel at odds with yourself or don't love the way you look, just knowing that you can treat yourself with care at every point, and choosing that is what self-love means.
Yeah, that was my next question, is like, what is self-love? Because when I first heard the word self-love, I thought it was like what most people maybe think it will be: self-love, bubble baths, having your nails done, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually not that. I mean, that's part of self-care, I guess, but that is not what self-love is. So what is your definition of self-love, and how do you help your clients to cultivate that for themselves?
Yeah. I think my definition of self-love is choosing to act lovingly towards yourself, even when it feels hard. And acting lovingly, like I said before, means acting with respect and compassion and care and all of those things. It's not about loving what you see 24/7, but it's about knowing that who you are and what you bring to the world is what makes you valuable. And I think that it is actively, it's an active process. It's not something that, like you were saying, it's not a bath bomb or a manicure and a pedicure. Those are wonderful, and I think everyone should treat themselves to those things every now and then or whenever they want. But I think that self-love is a practice, not
like a thing.
not a thing, not like something you can go out and buy or something that you can turn on and off. It's again like something that you cultivate. And so oftentimes with my clients, I kind of think of it like a ladder, because I think for so many of us, especially those of us that are just starting on this journey, it can feel really inaccessible. Like, oh, I could never love myself, or that's just not available to me.
Yeah.
And so I like to think of it as this ladder of, instead of trying to just all of a sudden love yourself, start with, again, like going back to what I was talking about before, like a neutral observation of yourself. I often encourage people to make a list of things that their body does without even asking: breathing, blinking, sleeping, all of these things that your body just does for you to keep you alive every second of every day, that are completely neutral, right? Like, they're not good, they're not bad, they just happen. And then once you start to have sort of a neutral awareness of your body, I think that can turn into, a little more gratitude. But I don't mean gratitude, but like, okay, I'm so glad I'm breathing, because then I'm alive, I'm alive, and that's a great thing. And so then you go from neutrality to sort of appreciation and gratitude. And then I think it can become respect. Like, oh, my body gets me through every day. My feet carry me. I was able to go on that hike, or, jump in the pool, or, all of these things. And then it can kind of lead into a new level of gratitude, which is like, wow, like I can do this. Like, my body allows me to do a lot of things. And then I think it turns into eventually more of that love that we were talking about, which is not necessarily in love, but loving the way your body allows you to experience life and to be a part of the world. And I think that that's a really good way in. And I think, so I think, I guess, tempering expectations is something that I do with clients, is sharing with them that it's not about falling in love with yourself. It's about cultivating a loving relationship with yourself, which I think is a very different thing. And then I think the other side of this is that you also need to commit to being respectful, because so much of our inner monologue around our bodies is, can be really mean. And so, I say, as you're going through this, as you're observing yourself, as you're gathering this information, think about yourself like you would think about your best friend or your pet or a loved one, and how you would speak to them about their body. And then, it might feel corny, but turn that language on yourself. And, kind of maybe a little bit of that, like, fake it till you make it, aspect or feeling.
I'm a fan of that, to be honest. Some people aren't, but in my opinion, you act as if you already love yourself. And I love the like bank account analogy. So you imagine you've got a bank account, and instead of currency or pounds or dollars or whatever, it's self-love. So you're either depositing or withdrawing. So if you notice a self-judgment about yourself or your body or what you're eating or what you should be eating or whatever the diet fuckery, I like to call it, comes in, you can make a choice. And I love that you've said the word choice a lot, and that is so key. I think, like, am I going to deposit into my self-love account, or am I going to withdraw? And of course, depositing would be acknowledging yourself. It's okay to feel this way. It doesn't really matter. Like, whatever feels good to you in the moment, just giving yourself kindness and compassion. Or are you going to withdraw, and then be like, yeah, I shouldn't be eating this. I don't look that good. Maybe this isn't working. Like, you get to choose. And I found that's a really helpful vision to imagine in each moment. And the more you put deposits in, obviously, the more your self-love is going to grow. And self-love, the word love is a verb, which is a doing word. Like, as you're describing, it's not just something you have and there you go, you've got it. You have to keep doing it and choosing choices to show that this is your choice, which is self-love. So I love all of what you've just shared.
Yeah. I really appreciate that bank analogy. It made me think about very early on in my journey, we moved to a new house and it had all of these full length mirrors all over. And living in our tiny apartment in New York City, it was like one little mirror in the bathroom. And
Yeah.
I at first had like a lot of trouble with having all of these mirrors around because it brought up old sort of body checking habits and all of those things. And then I sort of hit this point and it felt like that kind of fake it till you make it mentality, or like you were saying, the withdrawal and deposit, because I decided I didn't need to use the mirrors other than if I caught myself looking, I would stop, take a deep breath and just say thank you to myself and move on. And it ended up feeling, at first I was like silly. I was like, thank you, like thanking myself in the mirror. But then it became this like really nice moment that I got to give myself where I interrupted any thoughts that I was having to just say like, okay, I'm here and that's a good thing. Thank you. And then like moving on from that and not letting it get me stuck in this downward spiral or consumed by it. I wasn't ignoring it. I wasn't pushing it aside, but I wasn't letting it control me either.
I love that, because your thoughts aren't facts. And you can choose to say thank you and move on, or like be consumed with those thoughts. And yeah, that's so key. And the last question, which is a big one, but I think it's really important for us to cover. What does it really mean to be healthy at every size? Like, because a lot of people, when I share this message of health at every size, I get a lot of arguments against it, which is great because then I get to explain my view of it. How can someone be classed as quotes overweight, and how can they be healthy? How can it be quote healthy to eat whatever you want when you want? So like, what does that mean to you, and how again do you help your clients navigate that on this journey with you?
Yeah. So, I think one of the greatest lies that our society has sort of manipulated to be considered a fact is that weight equals health. Authentic health, like I was saying before, is the confluence of mental, emotional, physical, economic, social, nutritional factor. All of these things equal health and so much more. That's just scratching the surface of it. But the size of our bodies does not. That has almost nothing. It's like that idea of causation and correlation. Correlation does not equal causation.
No.
And so, yeah. So I think like that's the bottom line of it. The idea that skinny or small equals healthy, which then equals that a person is quote unquote better, is just so wrong.
Yeah.
Being healthy at every size means focusing on life-promoting behaviors and practices that are independent from the appearance and size of our bodies, but that honor us individually and in our preferences. And so I think like just knowing that health is a big picture, whole person thing that cannot be determined by size, by appearance, nothing like that. And that is like a complete and total lie that we've been fed, and switching it to, health meaning, how can I honor myself and live my best life independent from what my body looks like?
Oh, you explained that so beautifully.
Thank you. I do have notes for that one.
You wrote those notes and you explained that so beautifully. And I think it's so key what you've said about, first of all, health doesn't just mean food. Health is like, oh my gosh, you've got like the umbrella of health, and then you've got under that, you've got emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, if that resonates with you. And so then you've got under the physical health, like blood sugar, maybe body movement, meditation, that could go into like, there's so many things that mean health. And also health's not a moral issue either. So if someone doesn't really care about feeling fit and being able to go for a run, that's also okay, because it's your body, your life, and your choice. Yeah. And everyone is welcome. And I love that that's on your website. Like, there's no right or wrong person just because they don't care about their health. And I just love it so much. BMI, if I was to put my BMI thing calculator, I'm like almost obese, classed as almost obese, which is just ridiculous because, I mean, there's nothing wrong with obese either, but it's so damaging to have that biomarker as health. One of my clients rephrased this so beautifully. She said, BMI stands for bullshit, misunderstood information.
It's so true. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that understanding also, it's important, that we don't get told ever, BMI, first of all, I think was created, don't quote me on this, but I think it was created for insurance purposes, or backed right. by a mathematician. It has nothing to do with medicine or health or any of those things, but it has been co-opted to be used in that way. And then according to true health and authentic health, people who are, classed as overweight or obese, that are physically active, engaging in life promoting behaviors, are actually the healthiest people in the BMI, if we're looking at the BMI, which I agree is complete trash.
Yeah.
But it's just so misleading, and it's such an unfair sort of biased way of measuring ourselves that honestly, just throw it away.
Yeah. Just like forget it even existed, and just focus on how you feel and what health means to you, and then work towards those things from a weight neutral perspective.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, Alexandra, I would like to ask you one more question before you share how we can work with you or how we can connect with you. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like the listeners to take away specifically from our conversation today?
Oh, so many things. But I think if I had to sort of give a simple answer, I hope that, those of you listening can take away that you are enough as you are, that this is a practice, not a destination. And so wherever you are on your journey, you're where you're meant to be. You're doing the things that you need to do for yourself. And you always have the power to choose the next step, wherever that may be, wherever that may carry you. In talking about, like, we have, self-love, self-care, intuitive eating, all of these things give you the opportunity to honor yourself and choose your next steps. You are in control. You are the expert on you. So, I hope that this conversation leaves you feeling empowered and inspired to invest in yourself, listen more, consume the content that you want to consume to make you feel appreciated, valuable, worthy, welcomed, and all of those things.
I love it. And how can people work with you, and how can they connect with you? And do you have any freebies? And tell us all the things.
Yes. So I created a freebie that I shared with you. So I believe it will be maybe in the show notes.
Absolutely will. Yes.
Awesome. And it is a 30-day journal prompt and affirmation guide. And basically it's 30 days to self-acceptance. So it is focusing on that self-care that we were talking about, that self-love, and just helping you sort of create the groundwork for getting curious and getting to know yourself from a non-judgmental, nurturing standpoint. So it's 30 days of journal prompts with little affirmations attached to them that I hope will support you in your journey in getting started, or if you're an established intuitive eater, a great way to sort of check back in and see where you're at, see how far you've come. So that will be in the show notes. And then other than that, on Instagram and Facebook, I am Intuitively Alexandra, and my website is intuitivelyalexandra.com. So come find me. I am, open. I'm loving. I want everyone to feel welcome.
Yeah, we're so similar with our energies and our vibe. Like, I just really connect with you. It's amazing. So thank you, listeners, for listening. And please reach out to myself and Alexandra, and we will be there for you, because everyone is welcome.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.